AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Bernie
Mm-hmm.
Sanders, they've
Mm-hmm.
been on, what is it called? Stop the Oligarchs tour? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've been on
Uh-huh,
the
uh-huh.
tour. And they've been in, I believe, in Las Vegas, in Cali as well. And they've been speaking out as far as
Mm-hmm.
what's happening and pushing back. And I have some thoughts on this. Let's play a brief clip of AOC and I've always liked AOC
Yeah, I like
and
AOC.
Bernie,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and Bernie Sanders on their tour, if you will. Listen to this.
We might all come from different places, but we share many of the same experiences. So to all those who came here today unsure of whether or not this is a place where you belong, I want to say that you do. To those leaders on either side of the aisle who are willing to put their fellow Americans down so that they can get ahead or feel better about themselves, they may best find a home somewhere else.
If we stand together, if we don't let them to divide us up, if we are smart, if we're willing to go outside of our comfort zones, there is nothing that can stop us. Let us go forward together. Thank you.
All right, so Reese, I'll let you take this. Then I'll add my thoughts as well. What are your thoughts on this tour, if you will, from AOC and Bernie Sanders?
Well, first of all, I think it's good that they're out there. Obviously, they have a lot of star power. They have a very engaged following. I've said we need everybody out there, and we don't
Yeah,
all need to just have one message, one person dictating what everybody says. Um, I do think, though, that the idea that they're doing something that isn't being done by anybody else, that's not accurate uh, characterization of what they're doing. They have the biggest platforms. I mean, Bernie Sanders ran for president multiple times. Okay,
yeah,
he's been in Congress between the Senate and the House for 30 something years. AOC is probably one of the most popular politicians in the country, and she's really savvy with the social media stuff. And so naturally, you're going to hear more about what they're doing because they do have this kind of outsider, reputation. Despite, like I said, Bernie being in Congress 30 years. So I'm not mad at that. I think that people need to understand everything ain't a rally. So where I'm seeing that's very strange to me is that people are contrasting their rally performances, which is in front of tens of thousands of people, with what you're seeing from other electeds in settings that are not tens of thousands of people. Like I saw some of the feedback on the interview that I did yesterday, and people were like, "You need to be like AOC and Bernie. They had these routes," and I'm like, "Do y'all want them to be unhinged? We sitting around a table, the three of us having a chat on YouTube. Like, people have to understand that there are different settings that require different energy." And even Bernie and AOC don't give that rah rah energy 100% of the time either. They not unhinged. They not just completely, ready to chop somebody's head off every time. So I feel like it's good. I feel like it's helpful, but some of the times I feel like it just takes up so much oxygen without them lending the mic to others. I think they could be more helpful in that way. Like, remember the whole squad was a thing? Remember that?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I would like to see them also bring along with them. And maybe they are doing this. And it's just because of the algorithms, it doesn't get as much attention. But I would like to see them bring along other people, bring in people like Jamal Bowman, bring in Ayanna Presley, Summer Lee, Crockett. Like, let's have other people come in, because I'm sorry, but there's still a missing link there when you
yeah.
have you ain't got a black person. And we know Bernie is class not racist to death. He's still on his white male grieving shit and still saying that the Democratic Party has nothing for working class when he know damn well that's not the truth. because he was part of the people that voted on the American Rescue Plan, voted on ending child poverty or cutting child poverty in half. He voted on all the shit the Democrats was doing. So that's my other problem with him, is that he perpetuates this notion that the Democrats don't have policy answers. The Democrats are not deficiency on policy. They're deficient in lacking the information infrastructure, lacking message discipline, and misreading where they need to devote their attention, always thinking that they have to get the conversion. And we talked about it yesterday, Clay, on the interview where I said the swing voter is the couch voter. That's the biggest population. So that's my initial thoughts. But I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. All hands on deck, Days of Stars. Get out there. Go ahead. Let's have a conversation.
Tamara on Nubia said, went to a Bernie rally here in DT. I'm assuming that's
maybe Detroit.
Yeah. And I could count the number of black folks. Nonetheless, the message was on point. I wish they'd court the black vote more. Here's what I was thinking. I love what they're doing, right? But 5 years ago this month, I interviewed Dr. Ivory Thigpen. He's the senior pastor of a church in Columbia, South Carolina. And he was Bernie's 2020 South Carolina co-chair. And he talked about how Bernie really underestimated the black vote.
Yep.
And one of the big mistakes was that he did not go to the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And the failure of courting the black vote, right? Bernie did well with black folks under 30. Sadly, that isn't a very large turnout number. Right. Especially during the primaries. But black voters over 30, he didn't do that well. I want to play a brief clip of my discussion that I had with Dr. Ivory Thigpen 5 years ago. And I think that if they want to break through, they should listen to what this guy was saying, working with the Bernie Sanders campaign, saying it out of love. But the way he was speaking, listen to this.
I think South Carolina as a whole, looking back, was a miscalculation. Now, of course, we have the benefit of hindsight, and we hope that the lessons learned from hindsight lead to foresight. That's one of the reasons I was willing to give my comments. I think there was an underestimation of, the black vote and the influence that the black vote would have as being a bellwether moving forward. So I do think, and it was a question I asked early on in the campaign to uppers. Nobody really never gave me a direct answer, and I don't even know if they had one, but I kept asking the question, were we really trying to win the state? Were we trying to be competitive? Or were we simply trying to do better than we did last time in 2016? Which I think was indicative of a lot of the decisions that were made, or calculations, shall we say. And I know that no campaign is perfect and nobody can predict everything, but there should have been, spider senses going off, bells and alarms, whistles, red flags raised to know the importance of that type of event, or even South Carolina, the state as a whole, as it relates to African Americans.
And he went on to, of course, explain the Jim Clyburn angle and how Bernie never even called Jim Clyburn, reportedly. Now, that was 5 years ago. And when I hear that from a former co-chair of a political part of a campaign, I just want to make sure that Democrats learn their lesson. And sometimes it appears that they didn't. Now, thankfully, Joe Biden won that election. Yeah. But doing just this whole class angle, and I don't think Bernie would run for president again. I'm not saying that. But doing this whole class angle, just class, that's not going to work, because there is an intersection there that you're forgetting. And I'm not going to, we all kind of felt. I liked Bernie's policies, and we were just saying in the last hour, Dr. Ome Congo reminded us that, in the first hour, that when he went on Joe Madison's show, the late, great Joe Madison, he kept pivoting to class, and Joe Madison had to correct him on live radio. So I want all the folks who just use terms like working class, and, certain things are silent. You got to make sure you connect that. You got to because if you bring out the black vote, you can win swing states.
Yeah, for sure.
If you feel like we're already baked into the cake, or you're not, as you said with your DNC fireside chat, making the choir sing, then that's going to have a bad impact, and it'll eventually end up impacting us as well. Yeah. Too. So I'm not blind to that. But that's just what Bernie had big crowds in 2016. He had all those big crowds. That's great. But how are you going to
VP
tie
had big crowds
those
too.
things?
So
Exactly. Yeah, she had crowds don't mean votes. So glad to see it out there, but I just really hope that the it's not limited to this angle of class, and we're just going to get every we can all relate, because we are all poor. And I never forget, I heard Kamala Harris say this one time. She said the mother in Oakland has the same problems, I'm paraphrasing here, as the mother in Kentucky. And I said, no. This was years ago. No. They might still be struggling. Absolutely. But the mother in Kentucky, meaning the white mother in Kentucky, doesn't have to have the same discussion about police.
Yeah.
They don't have to have the talk. Like, it's okay to talk about. There are certain things that a Jewish mother is going to experience that a black mom isn't going to. It's okay to have nuances.
Yeah.
We're already struggling so much when it comes to where our politics are. But if we try to have if we can no longer talk about the beautiful array of our differences, certain communities need. There's things that Native American communities need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's okay to be specific. It's okay. And if we're gonna run away from that, because when Democrats lose, all things fall apart and they have to reshape the entire party. When Republicans lose, they just double down and say let's be more evil. That's how we can.
Well, so, I think that I think Bernie doesn't have an interest in cultivating Black people specifically. I don't think he has an interest necessarily in cultivating Latino people specifically. I think he has an interest in cultivating white working class people. He won't say the white, but that's what he really means, because we know that working class Black people and working class Latino people largely vote Democrat. So when he's saying that Democrats are failing to reach working class people, the white is silent. And that is one of the more like things that irk my soul about Bernie, because like I said, he's ran 2 presidential elections and he knows the power and the need to cultivate the Black vote and still didn't do it because he don't give a fuck. And that's okay. But then please, when you're talking about the right formula and the right things that we need in the party going forward, he's not the blueprint for that, because at the end of the day, the Electoral College, the presidential nomination goes through Black voters. And if we were ever able to really invest and get something going in the South where Black people are largely concentrated, then we're really talking about a different ballgame. So there are people that are Black that like Bernie. Chad. A lot of Black people like Bernie. I ain't saying that there ain't Black people that like Bernie. But I would say of the Black people that like Bernie, they still a lot of times have an issue with recognizing Bernie's shortcomings when it comes to Black people specifically. And there were people on his campaign in 2020 that came out after the fact and they was dragging his ass about how his campaign acted towards Black people. Now, they didn't say him specifically, but his campaign was not this utopia of like, okay, we all Black radicals and we found our home. And that wasn't the energy of it. So I think that there is the big tent in the Democratic Party. There's rooms for multiple perspectives, but I would not consider Bernie the blueprint, because Bernie cannot and refuses to find a way to connect with Black people outside of who he perceives as all Black people are poor. And so when he talks about Black shit is poor or criminal, and absolutely Black poor people are important, but that's not the only issue. Black people are not only worried about crime. When he said our most drug dealers Black. So that's where the deficiency comes in. I feel like AOC has more cultural competency, but you really don't hear her, at least I don't hear her as much really speaking on it, unless she's kind of, arm in arm with the Black right next to her. Then she cool sister girl, she ally, whatever. But Bernie in particular, I think he's really, really falls short when it comes to that cultural competency. and understanding the intersection of Black with multiple socioeconomic classes.